Hi, I'm Scott Grove, and I got a really interesting project just finishing up. It's a series of railings for a stairway, and we have a 2-section piece here and a 3-section piece here, all packaged up, ready to go. But what makes this project really interesting is that they're not only curved, but round and tapered. So the through mortise was quite a challenge. So I'm going to show you how I did that.
Now let's make these round, curved, tapered mortises. First, at the intersections, I sketch out the railing shape, which is not a true circle. Since it's coming in at an angle, it's going to be more like an oval. And I undersize this hole. You don't want to overcut this one. Now I'll drill an angled pilot hole by eye, just making sure I stay right in the center. And now expand the hole using an electric die grinder with a large carving burr. Slowly work the hole, staying well within the line. And then come in with a smaller carving burr. This one is on a air-driven die grinder. Same sort of tool, a little more power. And continue to work that hole. Now test the fit with a cutoff of the railing. What I'm doing here is just trying to work that outside edge, just trying to define where that fit is going to be. I'm not really worried about the inside yet. I just want to get that outside hole. Just work it with my small die grinder, kissing and taking a little more off so you get a perfect fit. Now I turn it over and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I use my calipers to mark the smaller side of the hole on the back. Just make again sure that I'm not going to overcut my hole. And lightly sketch this out. And I'll start carving this with my die grinders again. Slowly working the hole. And I'm just trying to find that outside line. I'll test this with another section of my railing. And now I start working the inside of the hole. To help remove more material and get a better alignment, I use a 1-inch diameter drill bit. And keep testing the fit. Just light adjustments with the fine die grinder. Feels pretty quick. Here you can see I'm pretty close. Got a nice tapered round hole. I intentionally undersized my hole. I want to make sure the railing does not slide through too far. Since it's tapered, that would be a problem. I'll mark any variations and kind of guesstimate how much more material I have to take off. Some minor adjustments and we're good to go. Looks like a nice fit. I actually did this 2 or 3 times, just working slowly, but the fit's perfect. After all my mortise is done, I line it on a piece of paper which has my original design and layout and drill through the connecting points, drilling through a board underneath it. This will help me align my mounting bolts perfectly on the job site. Now some black stain, and we're getting really close. Since I drilled through the entire railing for my alignment bolts and my alignment jig, I have to plug those holes. With my plug cutter, make some plugs, and we'll go ahead and glue them in on the outside of the railing. Little dab of glue, and they'll pound in nice and snug, and we'll flush them up later. My clients want a little more primitive or rustic look, so we decided to go with I'm going to call it a chip carving, although here I'm just using a die grinder with a sander attachment, and I'm sanding just these little sort of divots in the surface. Very subtle, but wonderful texture on the entire piece. It's going to be a wonderful tactile experience, also will fit with the house decor and style. My glue plugs are now dry and I can flush them up and add another divot right over that hole. No one will ever know that's there. Here's the final surface. It's going to look great. I'll soften the entire railing again one more time with my flat sander, so it's a wonderful tactile experience. It's really important on railings that they're really, really smooth, and a flat sander is a great way to achieve it. I now want to glue these railings together using an epoxy, but to be sure I don't have any squeeze out that's going to be unruly, I'm waxing the entire outside of the surfaces around the mortises. Sherwin-Williams makes a great industrial epoxy that comes in a caulk tube. It's actually two components that mix in this nozzle. When you squeeze it, there's a little spiral head in there, and it mixes the epoxy as you squeeze it out. It's a great way of mixing and installing epoxy without a lot of mess. So I'm squirting it inside the mortises, and I've taped off the end of the railing that's going to go through the hole to prevent that getting all covered with epoxy. Get good coverage, and we'll slide the mortise in and line this up with my installation jig. Now I'll lightly wipe off all the squeeze out with a little acetone and a rag, and we got a nice tight joint. Do the same process for the next joint, making sure I get good coverage and not too much squeeze out. This epoxy is really great stuff. I'll slide my mortise through, and on my installation jig I have 1/4-inch dowels. This keeps the railing perfectly aligned while the epoxy dries, and wipe off any excess. When the epoxy is partially cured, it allows me to easily cut off any additional squeeze out. It wasn't necessary as the joints were really nice looking, but the clients wanted a little more rustic look, so we added a leather wrap and lashed the joints together. The installation was going to be tricky, so again I used this Surecrete. It's a Sherwin-Williams epoxy with these mixing nozzles. It's really, really great stuff, but I wanted to do a test to make sure it was all going to work. So on a column I have a temporary bolt, and I apply my epoxy to the bolt, and then a dab to a test block, and I'm just going to slide this right over the bolt, and let's see if this works. Pretty sure it will. To cover these threaded rods, use a 3/8 copper pipe. I'm just going to sand it and patina them black. Now with my installation jig, I can locate exactly where those holes are going to be. And here I'm using a block of wood that I drilled on my drill press, so I can pre-drill my holes and make sure they're perfectly square to the face. I now install my 3/8 lag bolts. And with my copper covers, I'm also using them as spacers to determine how far the bolts have to go in. And I'll then simply cut the heads off. Now it's a good idea to do a dry fit just to make sure everything fits. Now I tape off my bolt covers and spacers and put them over the bolts after I've cut the heads off. I've also added notches on the end of the bolts where there weren't threads. I've added the epoxy to the holes, and we're ready to go. I've also taped off the railing around the holes, again to help prevent squeeze out getting all over the place. It's a perfect fit, and then clamp the railing in place. Now quick, let's wipe off the squeeze out. We don't want that setting up. That'd be a real pain in the ass to get off. A little acetone, and I'm just carefully wiping the squeeze out around each spacer. Got to move fast on this one. Notice I've also protected the carpet. The last thing you want is some epoxy to spill on that. Now it's all clamped in place, and let's go to lunch. After all the tape is removed, we'll give it a nice try. It's very secure, no wiggle in it, very happy. This is a really great project. I had a lot of fun with this one. Laminations are, pretty straightforward, but once we went tapered and curved, that added a unique twist to it. And of course, the tapered, curved, round through mortises, that was a really fun, challenging joint to do. So I think this railing was very successful. I hope you enjoyed the process, and we'll see what we can come up with next time. Okay, enjoy this one.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that last segment. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, ImagineGrove. If you want to know more information about me, books that I've written and recommend, links to other sites, please go to ImagineGrove.com. Thanks again for watching. Remember to cross the line and then move it. Thanks.